Yeah, this is Chris Rossetti with the YDL Sports Network. I'm here with District 9 basketball chairman Dave Osborne to kind of discuss how the committee came to its decisions on the brackets that have been released and that everybody can see on both the PIAAD9.org site, also on our site, YDL Sports Network, D9and10sports.com. Dave, obviously some of them were easier than others, like Brookville, Montauk, the only two AAA teams. It wasn't really anything that you were going to have to deal with that. But you get into some of them, and they get a little more complicated, and that even includes, I think the 4A girls, where there were only three teams, but there was a lot of discussion about who the top team was. Was it going to be St. Mary's? Was it going to be Punxsutawney? How did you guys come to the decision that it was Punxsutawney?
So in the case 4A girls, you get, like you said, you get down to points where you're just splitting hairs between quality wins and quality losses. We thought Punxsy had a little bit of a stronger schedule. And again, with just the three losses to Hazleton, Elk, and St. Mary's, that it just put them just a little bit ahead of St. Mary's in that case.
And then you get into Class 1A girls, where it's the biggest bracket you've got. It's 10 teams. I don't think there was any real discussion on who the number one seed was going to be. I think Elk County Catholic was easily the number one. I think Ridgeway was probably easily the number two.
Yeah.
Then to me, the next real discussion is 3 versus 4. North Clarion versus Du Bois Central Catholic. North Clarion obviously finishes with a slightly better record than DCC, but from my perspective, and I don't know if this was the committee's thinking, DCC played a tougher schedule. Did that weigh in at all?
Yeah, it certainly did. And we had about 3 different wins that DCC had that really impressed us, including a win over Warren was one of them. And I can't remember them all right now, but DCC had 3 or 4 real quality wins that we felt really carried them to that 3 seed. And I'll tell you, Chris, one of the things that the committee, really emphasized was who are the best teams that you beat. And that's where DCC kind of got that edge.
And then the next real discussion comes between the 5 Clarion and the 6 Port Allegany. How much did the NTL playing in semifinals last night and Port Allegany losing to Oswego Valley, did that have any effect at all on the discussion?
Actually, 0, because we had decided that we would only look at the regular season games. So that game did not come into play. And again, Clarion had a nice win against Karnes City, and just had a couple of those big wins that kind of vaulted them into that 4 seed.
And so if you're saying that, then what was the decision between putting Otto at the 8 spot instead of the 7 versus Oswego, when in the NTL standings, Otto was ahead of Oswego?
So Otto and Oswego, where did we have those? Was that
you had Oswego was at 7 and Otto's at 8?
Yeah. So one of the things we looked at is Oswego had a win over Port Allegany, who had kind of been the top dog up there. So based on common opponents, and again, we were really splitting hairs between those 2 teams, but we thought that win that they got against Port was the little bit of separation there.
Moving over to Class 1A boys, it's a 7-team bracket. Again, I don't think there was any discussion on who the number 1 seed was going to be. That was going to be, Elk County Catholic. I think the next 3, there could have been a little bit of a discussion that went on
Absolutely.
in that room between Johnsonburg, Clarion, and Cameron County. How did you end up with Johnsonburg being 2, Clarion 3, and Cameron County 4?
So, again, we go back to that schedule strength. With Johnsonburg, they had 3 of their losses were to Elk County. I believe they may have had a loss to Du Bois. But again, we had again, Du Bois, or one of Johnsonburg's, we loved one of their losses, actually, that they'd only lost by a couple of points. So we were looking at, again, schedule strength was a big factor. They played a really difficult schedule. I think they had a win. Did they have a win over St. Mary's?
They may have, yes. And then as we move beyond that, Clarion and Cameron, how much did Clarion's 1 point win over Cameron play a role into how that went?
It wasn't nothing. I mean, we did look at that head-to-head matchup. One of the, Clarion having a win over Carn City, I think was a big check mark in their favor too, as to move to that 3 seed.
And then, was there any discussion between Union and Dubois Central Catholic at 5 and 6?
Yes, and and right now, it felt like maybe Union was kind of trending up, and DCC was kind of finished on a low point.
Yeah, finished 1 and 5. That had to have some sort of effect in where they felt it.
Yeah, and just we liked again. Union had a couple nice wins, and I don't think anyone's raising their hand to play either one of those teams.
No, probably not. And then the 2A boys. You talk about. To me, you can take any one of the top 5, maybe even top 6 seeds in that one, throw them in a hat, and come up with a champion out of that. Let's start with what made Red Bank Valley the number 1 seed.
Red Bank Valley, had beat Carn City and CL, and again, their losses were to the very toughest teams in the district and out of the district. So their strength of schedule, the teams that they beat, the teams that they lost to, we felt would have been favorites against everyone else in the bracket. So we had them at the 1.
Then you go Otto at 2. And, I know there's going to be some discussion because CL beat Otto by, I think it was 17 or 19 points, and they're 4 and Otto's 2. How much of it was, hey, that's just one loss, and, we can't, maybe it's an outlier, maybe it's not, but, Otto Eldred took care of business against everybody else they played.
Well, and again, 21 and 1 just can't be overlooked. Tied for the top record in the district. And you know what? Shy of making excuses for a team, it's not easy waking up on a Saturday, getting in a bus for 2 hours, and playing a really good CL team. Who and again, you're not wrong. We made arguments for 4 different teams in 4 different places, and again, that same. I hate to keep coming back to it, but there's points where you're just splitting hairs.
And the other one that I thought could have gone either way was Cranberry 6, Port Allegheny 7. How much did Cranberry's recent win over Kane, and I think Port Allegheny had a loss to Kane, how much did that influence where those 2 teams ended up?
We we liked Cranberry, playing a little better schedule, but there again, there's 2 teams that I just don't think people were raising their hands saying, "Hey, sign me up." And it's going to be real. That bracket gets interesting right away in the quarterfinals, and the semifinals should be absolutely fantastic.
What I'm hearing, Dave, is that who you play matters, and maybe that wasn't the case before a committee seating that has only been around for a couple of years. But how much would you emphasize the teams as they look to make their schedules going forward, that playing good teams is going to help them when it comes to seeding?
Well, I think the big thing is we're not going to penalize you for playing good teams, but at the end of the day, we're looking more at who are the good teams that you beat. But if you don't put any of them on your schedule, it's hard to build a resume. So, but the last thing we want to do is penalize a school for going out and finding a great basketball game. And hopefully, when the teams see the seeds, they're gonna see that and not be afraid to go out and schedule competition that is going to show off their team as well.
How excited are you to have 6 championship games on Super Saturday? I don't know if we've ever actually had 6 on Saturday. We've had 6 games. Some of them have been Conci games. I don't know if we've ever had 6 championship games on a Saturday, Dave. How excited are you about that?
Well, Penn West Clarion is just such a tremendous facility. And one of the things that we wanted to do was have all of our teams play for a championship at Penn West. And, thankfully, the folks there have made that possible. And we're going to play, boys and girls, classes 1 through 4, all at Penn West University. Now, excited about I think Super Saturday should be super. and I expect, it's going to be a lot of fun. 6 championship games, and hopefully we pack it to the rafters.
Well, Dave, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us here to discuss how all this broke out. I think people find the inner workings of it pretty interesting. I know I did.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was Dave Osborne, the District 9 basketball chairman, discussing here on the YDL Sports Network the inner workings of how the seedings came about. Thanks again, Dave.